Hello everyone. Welcome to another interesting and informative session of the Analyst brought to you by Vajiram and Ravi. In today's video, we will discuss 5 important topics as featured in the Hindu and Indian Express for your larger understanding of the current affairs. The topics are as follows. In the first article, we will examine the issues related to single-use plastic. Then in the second article, we will read about the importance of ethical values in civil servants on Civil Services Day celebrated today. In the third article, we will read about various electoral reforms which has been taken in our country to further strengthen the democracy. In the fourth article, we will read about a scheme called as SANSAD ADARSH YOJANA, and in the fifth article, we will read about that why India Gate was created. Towards the end, there will be news snippets especially curated to help you excel in the upcoming prelims examination, so stay tuned. As per a recent study conducted by Center for Environment and Science, which is a non-profit organization, a major issue in the elimination of single-use plastic is the different stands taken by the countries ahead of the global negotiation involving 192 countries to be held in Toronto, Canada. Thus, the issues related to single-use plastic forms an important component of your GS3 paper under the theme of environment pollution and degradation. So let's first try to understand what exactly is single-use plastic. Imagine that you have taken a break from your studies and have decided to watch a movie. To further enhance the entertainment, you go out to buy cold drink and chips, both packaged in plastic, and you take it back home in a polythene bag. Now, once you have consumed this product, you cannot use this plastic for any other purposes. Thus, you throw them down in the dustbin. Such disposable goods based upon use and throw principle made up of plastic is called as single-use plastic. Now, plastic is basically a synthetic polymer which is characterized by various physical properties such as high density and tensile strength and chemical properties such as resistance of plastic to oxidation and ionizing radiation. Thus, with plastic, the inventors found a light and durable product which had multifaceted use, such as its application in developing of medicine devices, its lightening down the weight of jets and cars, thus making the space travel possible, or for the packaging of large consumer goods. Thus, the production of plastic significantly increased from 2.5 million tons in the year of 1950 to a staggering 400 plus million tons in the year of 2023. Now, why this single-use plastic has become such a major cause of concern? The first reason is that plastic is non-biodegradable, as it is made up of synthetic polymer which is derived from the byproduct of petroleum product such as polypropylene. These plastic cannot be degraded by the microorganisms. Thus, it lasts over the planet for a very long period of time, as it takes 50 to 10,000 years for plastic to ultimately degrade. Then, because this plastic over the years start converting into microplastic or microbeads, which has severe negative impact when it comes on human health. For example, such microplastic, they leach harmful chemicals such as bisphenol A, which is basically an endocrine disruptor and causes various diseases such as decline in the reproductivity or even cancer. Then, because of the mistreatment of this plastic, a large amount of it remains non-recycled and is ultimately thrown out in the open spaces such as in the ocean. A grave example of which is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which you guys can see here. Now, when such microplastic or microbead is ingested by the marine animals, it leads to the issue of bioaccumulation and then biomagnification of chemicals in their body, which ultimately harms them as it disrupts to neurological and hormonal imbalances. Keep this in mind that such products such as personal care products, they have around 5,000 to 95,000 microbeads. Then this plastic use also severely impacts the environment. For example, it leads to the alteration of habitat structure, decline in the light levels. It can also decline the soil fertility, thus ultimately impacting the agriculture productivity. Then it leads to the depletion of dissolved oxygen in water bodies, which ultimately impacts the marine life. And this plastic can also get accumulated in the drainage system, thus ultimately creating the issue of water logging, which becomes the breeding ground for disease such as malaria, dengue, etc. Now, as per the United Nations Environment Programme report, in 2023, plastic production was responsible for 4% of the total greenhouse gas emission. Now, on basis of this information related to the concerns associated with single-use plastic, let's try to solve a question which appeared in the prelims 2019. Where they asked that what are the concerns associated with microbeads, and as we have established, it is considered harmful for the marine ecosystems. Now, in the recent years, we have witnessed the increasing menace of plastic, as the single-use plastic has become the highest share of plastic manufactured with 33% of the total plastic production. Also, as per the United Nations Environment Programme, 98% of such single-use plastic was produced from fossil fuels. Then, most of it remains untreated and discarded globally up to 130 million metric ton. And when we talk specifically in the case of our country, India is the second worst country when it comes to the plastic waste generation, where we generated, like the total plastic waste which we have generated and we discarded, we did not treated it, amounted to 26 million metric tons, and the per capita production of such plastic waste in kg was around 20 kg. As you guys can see in the graph here, the recycling of the total plastic waste amounts to a meager share of 2.5%, while the major share remains either incinerated or disposed in the landfills or is mismanaged. Thus, as per Niti Aayog, when it comes to the plastic production in India, the industries which are majorly responsible, such as chips and confectionery packets, 19%, bottle caps and lids, 12%, 8% of plastic is used in the production of garbage bags, 7% in the retail bags, equal amount is used in the straws which you drink to sip your cold drinks in this hot summer months, and 5% as food bags. As per Niti Aayog, only 60% of this plastic being generated is actually collected and only 20% is actually recycled. And with increasing plastic use and fast moving consumer goods industry, the plastic usage is going to increase 4 times by the year of 2050. Thus, to deal with this increasing menace, the government has taken several steps. Now, the path to eliminate the single-use plastic was led by the United Nations Environment Assembly, which adopted a resolution to end the plastic pollution in 2022. Following the guidelines, India enacted the Plastic Waste Management Rules of 2021. Under which it banned 19 categories of single-use plastics, such as the plastic carry bags, which are less than 75 microns in thickness, your earbuds, plastic sticks used for balloons, ice creams, candy, or the polystyrene or thermocol which is used for decoration. Also, the wrapping or packing films around the sweet boxes or the disposable crockery. Then the government also issued the directives to the petrochemical industries that it should not supply raw material to any industries which is engaging in the production of these banned items. Then the State Pollution Control Board and Pollution Control Committee at the district levels were directed to revoke the consent of operation of such industries under Air and Water Act. Also, the Central Pollution Control Board took the initiative to provide certification for biodegradable plastic. And any such industry, if it does not follow these directives and leads to any kind of violation, then that industry has to pay environment damage compensation under the Environment Protection Act of 1986. Then the government also introduced the extended producer responsibility under the Plastic Waste Management Rules of 2016, which directs a producer to collect all the plastic packaging material produced, 100% of it by the 2024, and 50% of it shall be mandatory recycled. The government also took further steps such as establishing a national dashboard for the elimination of single-use plastic. And then for social engineering purposes, it created a Prakriti mascot to incentivize the people to follow green practices. Then there was an India Plastic Pact which was signed between the Confederation of Indian Industry and Worldwide Fund for Nature, where they aim to promote concepts such as a circular economy, which is based on the recycling principle, and also say no to plastic, or further emphasizing the recycling of the plastic. On this very line, the Khadi Village Industries and Commission KYC launched a project Replan or to reduce the plastic in nature, where it aims to create carry bags, which are a major use of plastic, to create such carry bags with 20% of treated plastic and 80% of cotton fiber yarns. Thus, as we can see, there has been several innovative steps which has been taken to curb the menace of single-use plastic. However, despite such efforts, there lies the persisting challenges associated with the elimination of single-use plastic. The first of which is the lack of any viable alternative. Why? Why we use single-use plastic at such a large scale? The major reason is that first of all, it is very much affordable to us because we get these plastic bags for free from the ration shop. Then it is very convenient for us to use that, and also there is a wide accessibility of such plastic bags as they are available at every shop wherever we go. On the other hand, there are certain economic considerations. For example, if you look to the other alternatives, if they are not cost effective, it will ultimately increase the cost of production for the businesses. Thus, they will not move towards such alternatives at all. For example, let's say that if the Pepsi which we are drinking, if the cost of making the bottle of that Pepsi will increase, it will ultimately increase the cost of product. So the demand for Pepsi will decline. Then why the Pepsi company will actually move towards any such alternative? Then, as per the All India Plastic Manufacturing Association, the plastic industry actually employs more than 1 million people in our country. And the exports are worth over 25,000 crore of revenue incurring to the government. Thus, there are several economic considerations which we also need to think about when we are talking about the blanket ban of plastic, which can significantly hamper the fast moving consumer good industry in our country. As per the Plastic Waste Manager Index 2020, India is thus the 13th largest investor in the single-use plastic. Then obviously there is this rampant issue of the inadequate recycling infrastructure which persists in our country. As you guys can see from the map here, when it comes to recycling, of the total waste which we are generating, only 9% of that is actually recycled, while 12% is incinerated and 79% of it is remain undecomposed, as can be seen from the garbage mountains of Gazipur near New Delhi, where you can also go for some different kind of sightseeing. Then there is issue of consumer behavior, where on one hand we want cheap products and on other hand we lack the recycling purposes such as segregation of waste at the source itself. Also, as highlighted by the report in the news, there exists different stance on plastic treaty. For example, countries such as New Zealand, Bangladesh, European Union, these countries have actually banned plastic bags. On other hand, as we talked about the economic consideration, as per Center for Science and Environment, India is only looking to regulate single-use plastic and is not in the favor of complete ban of it because it can significantly hamper our economy. Thus, in the highlight of these issues, the Government of India shall take adequate steps first and foremost to create more awareness among the public, and then there shall be more investment in the research for viable alternatives when it comes to plastic, such as the recent discovery of E. coli bacteria which can actually eat plastic. So there shall be more need of investment in this direction. With this suggestion, we move forward to the next news. April 21 celebrates the spirit of public services in India to honor the central role of civil servants in the governance system. Now, the article which highlights the Civil Services Day celebrated today and the role of ethics required for civil servants forms an important component of your GS4 paper under the theme of Civil Services Value and Ethics in Public Administration. The genesis of Civil Services Day lies with the historic day of 21st April 1947 when Sardar Patel addressed the first batch of civil servants at Metcalfe House in New Delhi. Then, since 2006, the Civil Services Day is celebrated to commemorate and highlight the selfless dedication of civil servants, their integrity, and their relentless pursuit to play the pivotal role in the nation building, where they are described as the catalyst for progress and transformation of nation by implementing the policies in wide array of sectors such as education, health, business, when it comes to your foreign services, etc., where they also play a key part in the formulation of policies such as Right to Education Act of 2009 or Citizenship Amendment Act, as well as implementation of policies at the grassroots level, such as we can see from the success of Swachh Bharat mission. Then these civil servants play a pivotal role in the delivery of essential public services even in the time of despair, such as the COVID vaccination drive. Also, the civil servants ensures and maintain law and order in the society. A great example of which is the DCP of Bangalore of that time, who placated the agitating crowd during the anti-CA protest by singing national anthem with them and promoting the feeling of patriotism in them. Then these civil servants act as a catalyst for the positive change in the society, which they can bring from implementing the schemes, by acting as a role model, and by inculcating the ethical values. Thus, they have aptly been described as the steel frame of our nation by Vallabhbhai Patel as well as Lal Bahadur Shastri. And as per our former precedent, each step which is taken by the civil servants toward the ethical values such as transparency, efficiency and integrity, it actually brings the nation closer to its goal of inclusivity and development. Thus, there is rising need of ethics in civil servants. As with increasing spread of digitalization, the devolution of democracy at the grassroots level such as Gram Panchayat and urban local bodies, and with increasing literacy and awareness, there exists high demand in today's public of an accountable, transparent, responsible as well as participatory form of government. Thus, the need of administration in today's time is that it shall be based upon 4 E's, that it is efficient, it is economical as well as ethical and equitable when it comes to application of government services, which will ultimately ensure that there lies a good governance, a sustainable development, and it will ultimately prevent the corruption. Then the ethical values ensures the optimal utilization of public resources. For example, in absence of ethical values such as financial propriety, these government servants, they start thinking the public fund as their own private fund, ultimately leading to the misappropriation of funds and resources. A grave example of that is a Chhattisgarh official who actually drained a public reservoir being used for irrigation purposes to retrieve his lost mobile from that reservoir. Then the presence of ethical values such as courage, honesty, it actually helps a public servant to resolve the conflict of interest which most of the time take place between duty and your personal values. For example, you become a civil servant tomorrow and you get a direction from your higher official that you should take part in the corruption racket which is taking place, which is against your moral and ethics of honesty. Thus, guided by the ethical value of courage, you deny to be participate in such corruption which is taking place and raise your voice against injustice. So it was done by an officer named Sibbal, who actually exposed the recruitment scam which was taking place in the education department despite high level of political pressure. Then the presence of ethical values also helps in effective decision making, where you can just control your emotions, you know exactly to just make sure that your conscience remains alive, and then you take the decision on the basis of objectivity. Also, there exists a harmonious relation between the various level of governance if a public servant is following an ethical route, which ultimately builds the public trust among the larger public towards the directions of the government. Thus, they also start participating in the government initiative. For example, if there is a public servant in a Naxalism affected area and that public servants open schools, hospitals, community centers, then it can actually curb the issue of Naxalism in that particular area. Also, such presence of ethical values such as compassion, empathy, especially towards the vulnerable and marginalized section of society, ensures the social justice under the directive of Article 38 of the Constitution. However, in recent times, we can see that there are rising ethical issues among the public servant, which is highlighted by the No Trumpets or Buggles book, which has been written by a former civil servant named J.B. D'Souza. According to which, these public servants, most of the time, what they start doing is, they start developing a helicopter approach, where they become unreflective of actual issues which are taking place in the society because they are surrounded by the yes-manship and the bureaucratic process which just revolves around them. An example of which can be seen from the news headline here, where a 100-year-old woman was actually dragged to the bank for her physical verification under the Jan Dhan account. Then they start developing an issue of me, myself and I attitude, where they have high tendency to be regarded as the king of the people rather the servant of the people, which can also be seen from another news headline, which is a classic case of IS couple who actually used to vacate a stadium where the athletes used to take part. They actually used to vacate that stadium to make sure that their dogs get a walk in the evening. Then there is heavy reluctance among these public servants to accept their participatory role under the fabrication of democracy, especially after 73rd Constitutional and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. Then, as per the book, they have this new policy driver approach, where instead of effectively implementing the existing policies, they start looking towards some new directives which can bring them personal limelight, especially in today's time of social media. Also, there exists a lack of accountability among them, which actually emerges from their negligence of duty, their evasive tendencies due to the political pressure, and their excessive level of security of tenure which is provided to these civil servants under Article 311 of the Constitution. Then, obviously, when it comes to bureaucracy, there is certain image which is associated with it, and that is the image of corruption. So much so that if you will talk to today's aspirant, most of them actually wants to join the civil services because they want to become rich, just like how did Nadir Shah or Robert Clive or the today's politicians who are involved in various kind of scams, which is reflected from the high level of corruption which persists among the Indian bureaucracy, as India ranked an abysmal 85th in the Corruption Perception Index. And keep this in mind, we have the highest bribery rate, that is 39% of all civil servants have been indulged in bribery at one point or another, which is the world's highest bribery rate. And this is also reflected from the perception index which was actually taken from the public, according to which 45% of the citizens has paid a bribe at least in the last 1 year to get their work done. Or 84% of the citizens said that most of the bribes were actually given to the local government. Then the citizens paid most of these bribes to police and property registration in the country. Thus, as according to Gandhiji, there is enough in this world for everyone's need, but there is not enough for one's man greed. And these issues are actually hampering the growth of our country. But keep this in mind that this is not associated with the whole lot of bureaucracy, because there also exists some shining examples in our country. For example, there is the recent case of the district collector Faiz Ahmed Mumtaz, who actually led to the transformation of Jamtara, a place which is actually infamous for a lot of cyber crimes which is taking place in our country, where he actually opened schools, community centers, panchayat offices, as well as health centers to transform the lives of the people of Jamtara. Then there is the case of Superintendent of Police Bhavani Gupta, who launched Himmat program in the tribal areas, where she provided the self-defense skill to the women there, to more than almost 2,000 women, to help them fight the issue of Naxalism, theft, etc. Then there is the case of District Magistrate of Champaran, who launched a Nav Parvartan initiative during the COVID time, where he used the migrants and laborers who were returning from various states back to Bihar and were facing the grave issue of unemployment. He actually helped them to get a skill and to get jobs under this Nav Pravartan initiative. Then obviously there is the classic example of various reforms in the election system which was taken by the TN session as its position of Chief Election Commissioner, and the role of E. Sridharan, who is also called as the Metro Man, where he transformed the public transport in our country. As we can see from the graph here, that there is persistent impact of corruption which actually leads to hunger, poverty, inflation, human rights, injustice, etc. in our country. Thus, this issue of corruption has to be dealt with utmost seriousness, which also highlights that there is need of reforms in civil services in today's time. As Gandhiji said that the best way to find yourself is actually to lose yourself in the service of others. This shall become the dictum of civil servants in our country in today's time and as an aspirant of yours as well. To keep these noble suggestions in our mind, we move forward to the next news of the day. The article in the newspaper highlights the role of Election Commission of India over the years to ensure free and fair elections in our country, which is a fundamental requirement for establishment of democracy. Thus, the various electoral reforms which has been taken by the Election Commission of India over the years forms an important component of your GS2 paper under the theme of governance. So let's first try to understand the independent position of Election Commission of India, where it is established as a constitutional body under Article 324 of the Constitution, and it was established on 25th of January 1950, where it is headed by a chief election commissioner and two other election commissioners who are appointed by the president. And such recommendation to the president is passed by a committee, where there was a recent issue which was going on, where as per the Supreme Court judgment, the Chief Justice of India became the part of this committee and later it was removed by an amendment. So now the selection committee for election commissioner and chief election commissioner consists of the Prime Minister, a cabinet minister, let's say a home minister, defense minister, etc., or the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha. Now, the Constitution itself establishes the Election Commission of India as an independent body, it has some important roles to play. The first of which is the delimitation of constituencies, registration of voters, to ensure and enforce the model code of conduct, which comes into play just when the election dates are announced, and it will be under the play till the results are out on 4th of June. Then there is adjudication of electoral disputes as well as granting recognition to the various political parties. So now let's try to examine the various reforms which has been taken by the Election Commission of India. The first of which is the enforcement of the Model Code of Conduct, which became prominent especially under the issues which was raised under the state of UP versus Raj Narayan case 1975 or Indira Gandhi versus Raj Narayan case of 1975, where the court actually held Ms. Gandhi, who was the then Prime Minister, to involve into electoral malpractices to win the election. And just after that, there was grave misuse of power when the emergency was imposed for the 2-year period time of 1975 to 1977. Thus, from 1979 onwards, there is strict enforcement of a model code of conduct, which is a set of guidelines to be followed by all the political parties during the time of election. And it especially prevents the party in power to misuse its power to get some undue advantage in the election. Then, the electronic voting machine was introduced to ensure a tamper-proofing, to make sure that there is no fake votes being cast, to create as a robust and a reliable mechanism, and to save the counting time as well. For all these purposes, the introduction of electronic voting machine was done as a trial basis in 1982 in the Parvur constituency election in Kerala, and finally in 1999 it was used in the assembly election in the Goa. Then EPIC, or Electoral Picture and Identity Card, was introduced in 1993. So before 1993, you just used to get yourself registered in the electoral roll and used to go and vote. There was no picture of you to identify that you are only Gangadhar. Now the Gangadhar has a picture as well, so you can make sure that the person who has actually registered in the electoral roll can go and cast their vote. Now from 2021 there is electronic epic cards which are being introduced. Then there are several other reforms such as the disqualification of any candidate for insulting the National Honor Act of 1971, where let's say if you are a candidate and you insult our constitution or you insult our national flag or national anthem, then you will be disqualified to contest the election. Also, the Election Commission has taken several other steps to curb down the corruption which takes place during this election time, such as prohibition on the sale of liquor, especially during the 48 hours time period during the election. Then the time limit has actually set down for the by-election. So earlier the by-election can used to take place in any period of time, but now it shall be held within 6 months when the vacancy of seat has occurred. Then now there is a restriction on the maximum number of constituencies on which a candidate can contest election. Earlier it used to be 3, 4, etc. But now it has been curbed down to only 2 constituencies. For example, Rahul Gandhi, he fought election from Amethi as well as Wayanad in Kerala in 2019 election. Then now the voting is also provided through postal ballots to increase the electoral roll, to make sure that everyone is able to participate in the election and cast their choice of vote. Now this postal ballot is provided to any person with disability, to electorals who are employed in essential services, and any COVID suspect or affected person during the COVID time. Now remember that with the recent amendment which was covered in this analyst as well, the senior citizens age has been increased. Earlier it was 80, but now it has been increased to 85 years. Then the Election Commission has taken this step to increase the transparency by ensuring that any candidate shall declare their criminal antecedents. If there is any case which is going on against them, their educational qualification, all this shall be declared by the contestant in the public. So, as we have data from the 2019 Lok Sabha election, we can see that there has been 26% increase in the member of parliament who has got criminal background. Right, and nearly 29% of the cases against the current Lok Sabha members are actually related to heinous crimes such as rape, murder, etc. So now when you are going to vote in this 18th Lok Sabha election, be very careful and mindful of your choice. Then obviously there is the restriction on the exit polls during the time of election. Then there has been introduction of none of the above option from the 14th Lok Sabha election as well, which has ensured that now if you do not want to cast your vote because you are not aligned with the policies of any of the contestant, then you can show your disagreement with the kind of governance which is taking place by casting your vote as none of the above option. However, keep this in mind that even if the majority of the vote has been polled under nota, the candidate who will even get the highest share of vote, let's say 14% of the vote, that candidate will be declared as a victor. Then the very important step was taken through the introduction of VVPAT, which stands for Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail, which actually helps the voter to confirm their choices, as it consists of the candidate serial number, the name of the candidate for which you have voted, and their corresponding symbol. So when you are casting your vote, you can confirm that EVM has correctly recognized your vote by seeing your VVPAT. And how it works? The printed VVPAT slip is actually displayed for 7 seconds before it automatically cut and delivered to a sealed ballot compartment. However, with the recent controversies surrounding the EVM, VVPAT, etc., it actually showcases that there is need of much stronger electoral reforms. And as in the words of Chief Justice of India, the Election Commission of India shall ensure that it does not get bulldozed to those who are in the power. With this noble thought in our head, we move forward to the next news of the day. The report in the newspaper highlights the major issues related to the SANSAD ADARSH Gram Yojana, which was launched as a major overhaul in the development of model villages in the country. Now, the issues related to the implementation of this scheme forms an important component of your GS2 paper under the theme of government policies and its interventions. So, let's first try to understand the different provisions of this scheme, which is implemented by the Ministry of Rural Development, and it was launched on 11th of October 2014 on the birth anniversary of a stalwart socialistic leader, Jayaprakash Narayan, where it actually aims to develop socio-economic and physical infrastructure such as roads, hospitals, creation of public well tanks, etc. by the Member of Parliaments. The target was that the Member of Parliaments will adopt 3 villages by 2019 and then 8 villages by 2024. Thus, as currently there are 790 Member of Parliaments, each of them will lead to the development of 8 villages, which will ultimately amount to 6,320 villages by the year of 2024 out of the existing 2,65,000 villages in our country. Now, what is the selection criteria for these MPs to adopt a village? Well, if you are a Member of Parliament from Lok Sabha, then you will adopt a Gram Panchayat within your constituency. Or if you are a member from Rajya Sabha, then you will adopt a panchayat from the district of your choice in the state from where you have been elected. Or if you are a nominated member, then you will adopt a Gram Panchayat from any district in the country. Then there you will take participation in the formulation of a village development plan. And the implementation of this village development plan will be done by the local bodies and the district magistrate. As a Member of Parliament, you will also be responsible for the mobilization of resources by NGOs, corporate social responsibility, as well as from MP-led fund or Member of Parliament local area development funds as well. However, as highlighted by the report, there lies a grave issue in the implementation of this scheme. The first of which is the poor adoption rate, where you guys as can see from here, there has been till now 8 phases of adoption. However, the total adoption only amounts to nearby 3,000 Gram Panchayats against the devised target of 6,320 Gram Panchayats. Then, as per the report, there has been no village which has been adopted in Delhi in the last 5 years, which can also be reflected from the table where you guys can see that in the phase 1 there was not a single state which had zero adoption. But now the number of such states with zero adoption has increased up to 10 states when it came to phase 8 of the implementation of the scheme. Then, even if the village has been adopted, there has been poor implementation of the scheme where the villages are still lacking of any sound infrastructure, such as the example of the village near Asola Bhatti Wildlife Sanctuary in Delhi, where there is still lack of road, a good primary school, a good primary healthcare center. There is still not implementation of other government schemes such as provision of water facility or a tap water facility under Jal Jeevan Mission. So these villages are facing the issue of poor implementation by these Member of Parliaments. Also, there exists a non-harmonious structure where these MPs, they are actually complaining that they are not getting enough support from the state government, from the MLAs or from district authorities. And to compound this, there is issue of political tussle, which ultimately leads to the development paralysis. Development paralysis in the sense that because there are representatives of different parties at various levels, it actually creates a kind of a tussle among them. Either they want all the credit of good implementation of the scheme, or they just want to play the pass the blame game. All this actually shows the governance apathy in the development of villages, which act as the fundamental unit of our country. Thus, the socialistic principles of Jayaprakash Narayan shall be imbibed on immediate basis to ensure the overhaul in this particular scheme and its harmonious implementation. With these suggestions, we move forward to the next news of the day. The article highlights the sacrifice of Indian martyrs who led their life for the British India during the wartime period of World War I, which took place from 1914 to 1919. The sacrifice of Indian soldiers during World War I and the architectural feature of India Gate forms an important component of your prelims paper under the theme of modern history. Well, India Gate, whose construction started in the year 1921 and ultimately culminated in the year of 1931, it is basically a war memorial which commemorates the sacrifice of 74,187 martyrs of Indian Army sacrificing their life in the World War I, where they actually played a pivotal role in several major battles such as the Battle of Neuve Chapelle in 1915, the Battle of Gallipoli in 1916, where the Entente powers such as Britain, France, they actually tried to weaken the Ottomans in the region of Constantinople or today's Istanbul, thus ultimately trying to weaken the Axis power of Germany. Also, they played a pivotal role in the Battle of Somme, which was fought near the Somme River in France. Now, out of these 74,187 martyrs, more than 13,000 of their names has actually been inscribed on this memorial, which was designed by Edwin Lutyens on the model of Arc de Triomphe, which was created by Napoleon in the year of 1807. It also has a little bit of close resemblance with the Gateway of India, which was created to commemorate the visit of Prince Charles of Britain. Why this India Gate has been in the news? Because there is a replica of this India Gate in the Brighton, which is in the southeast of England, where an annual multi-faith event is actually celebrated to commemorate the role of our Indian soldiers. And this replica of India Gate in Brighton was unveiled by the Maharaja of Patiala in the year of 1921. Keep these facts related to India Gate very dear to you for the prelims examination, and we move forward to the next segment of our news. In this particular segment, we are going to cover some news which are very important for the upcoming prelims examination. The first of which is basically an act called as Foreign Intelligence Services Act of United States of America, which was first authorized in 2008 and has been recently reenacted by the US Parliament. Why this act is very important? Because it permits the US agencies such as CIA to collect the data even of non-Americans anywhere in the world without any warrant, which will ultimately act as a major constraint to the right to privacy, which has been held by the fundamental right under Indian Constitution. So the next time when you are using Twitter or Facebook, be very careful of this FISA. And then in the next news, we are going to talk about the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority (IRDA's) new directives. IRDA is basically a statutory body which was founded in the year of 1999, and it serves under the Ministry of Finance. It has been in the news because recently IRDA removed the age limit for purchasing the health insurance policies. Before this directive, earlier, the people only up to 65 years of age could actually avail health insurance. As per IRDA, this step has been taken to extend the health benefits to the larger section of society. Then, in the next news, we will talk about the first Indian space tourist, whose name is pilot Gopi Chand Thotakura, and he is going to venture into the space on NS-25 mission of the Blue Origin, which is basically a space company under Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. By venturing into the space as a tourist, Gopi Thotakura is going to become the second Indian to venture into the space after Rakesh Sharma, who ventured into the space in 1984. Now, in the next news, we are going to talk about a very famous species which has been repeatedly in the news, and that is olive ridley sea turtle, who is the smallest and the most abundant of all sea turtles. And they are very famous for their unique mass nesting practice, which is called as Aribada, where their world's largest rookery is in the Gahir Mutt Sanctuary, which you guys can see here, which is very close to your Paradeep coast in Odisha and on the south bank of the Dhamra river. Keep this in mind that Mahanadi river flows very close just to the south of this Gahir Mutt Sanctuary. Also, there is another river there, which is Rishikulya river, which flows further down south. Then, the protection status of this olive ridley sea turtle is they are considered as vulnerable as per the IUCN's red list of threatened species. They are protected under the Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act, and to further protect them, the Indian Coast Guard had launched an Operation Olivia back in the years to ensure their protected nesting here. Now, these olive ridley sea turtles are found in the warm and tropical waters of oceans such as Pacific, Atlantic as well as Indian Ocean. Keep these facts very dear to you for the upcoming prelims examination, and with this we have reached to the end of our discussion today. Do not forget to attempt the questions at the end of the video and test your knowledge. We will meet in a very interesting discussion very soon. Till then, all the very best for your preparation and thank you.